During our Farm Basics time today, we wanted to discuss crop canopy and what that really means for farmers.
When you think about crop canopy, you probably think about great big plants that are shading out everything, and that's exactly what we're talking about. Unfortunately, when we get into a late planting situation like this year, with all the flooding and the heavy rains earlier in the year,
and cold temperatures.
And cold, you end up with a lot of crop that's still too short to completely fill in the row.
Well, especially when it's a crop like soybeans. Soybeans don't grow that tall in the first place, and most of their growth comes late in the season. So our issue is whenever sunlight can hit the ground, it's very easy for weed seed to germinate. So as long as those weeds have moisture and they have some sunlight and heat, they can get going. So even though it's pretty late in the season to be out spraying again, farmers may have to spray because the crop canopy has not shaded out that ground and prevented weeds from coming later on.
When you talk about sunlight energy hitting the ground, it is a waste. When you're in a field or when you're in a garden, wherever you're growing plants, it's important to remember that plants get their energy from the sun, and they need that sunlight, and they need to maximize how much they can get. So you want to have your crop fill in the rows as quickly as you can. There's a few different ways you can do it. One would be to plant your crop early in the season. You've got the most time to fill in that row, and they can take advantage of maximum sunlight through a good portion of the growing season. The other way is simply to move your rows closer together. This is what happened in many cases this year with late planted soybeans. Instead of planting in 30-inch rows, a lot of those beans ended up getting planted in 15-inch rows or even in 7 to 10-inch wide rows. This way they fill in quickly, capture as much sunlight to make photosynthesis as possible, and they can still achieve a pretty good yield.
So basically what we're saying is it's really important to utilize as much of the sun's energy as possible for the crop. But when we talk about crop canopy, probably the thing we talk most often about with farmers is just that crop canopy is the best weed killer ever invented. So we can talk all we want about Roundup and these herbicides and everything to control weeds, but you know what? If you have a great crop that grows quickly and shades out everything else, it prevents weeds from getting going. So that is really important if you want to have a great crop or a great garden or a great lawn. You want to get great crop canopy so you can have excellent weed control without the use of a lot of herbicides.
One of the weeds that crop canopy can help you control is our weed of the week. Can you identify this week's weed?